You could walk into a dealership today, spend 10 grand on a KTM, and have no idea you're buying into the middle of the most radical restructuring in the brand's history. On November 18th, 2025, an Indian company finalized a financial rescue and takeover of KTM's entire parent company, a package worth approximately 800 million euros, or nearly $1 billion US. The badge stayed the same, the logo stayed the same, but the people controlling every decision, engineering budgets, where bikes get built, what models survive, changed completely. In this video, you'll know exactly what changed, what it means for the bike you're considering, and what to ask before you sign anything. Here's the thing. I've talked to riders who bought carryover inventory in early 2025 with zero idea the factory had partially shut down. They thought they were getting a deal. Some of them are still waiting on parts. So I went deep on this. Not press release, deep. Court filing, deep. Austrian restructuring proceedings, Bombay Stock Exchange filings, European Commission approvals, the kind of paperwork that's boring as hell until you realize it's deciding whether the bike you're about to spend 10 grand on was engineered in Vienna or value engineered in a boardroom. Here's exactly what happened, why it happened, and what it means for you. Let's rewind to 2007 because that's where this story actually starts. That year, Bajaj Auto, one of the world's top 3 motorcycle manufacturers and the second largest in India, quietly bought a 14.5% stake in KTM. At the time, most Western riders barely noticed. Bajaj was known for building affordable commuter bikes for emerging markets. KTM was known for winning Dakar rallies and scaring beginners on track days. On paper, it made 0 sense. But here's what Bajaj actually did with that partnership. They turned India into KTM's manufacturing backbone. By January 2023, the 1 millionth KTM motorcycle had been produced in India. Not Austria. India. That 390 Adventure you might think of as a European product? Built in Pune. The Duke 390? Pune. The RC 390? Pune. The 125 Duke? Pune. These bikes have been rolling off Indian assembly lines and shipping to over 100 countries, including the US, for over a decade. The European brand image was always partly a story. A very good story, but a story. So when people react to the Bajaj takeover with shock, like KTM just got corrupted by foreign money, they're about 15 years too late to that conversation. The real question isn't whether Bajaj is involved with KTM. They've been involved since before most current KTM owners bought their first bike. The real question is, what happens when a minority partner with 15 years of manufacturing partnership finally holds every card and inherits a company that burned itself to the ground? To understand the takeover, you have to understand the collapse. And the collapse was spectacular. On November 29th, 2024, KTM AG filed for restructuring proceedings with self-administration in Austria, a court-supervised process that gave the company 90 days to reorganize and secure financing before falling into full insolvency. Creditors eventually filed claims totaling around 2.2 billion euros, though the insolvency administrator recognized approximately 1.7 billion of that total. The banks, the suppliers, the parts manufacturers, all of them in line, all of them waiting. When the dust settled, those creditors agreed to take 30 cents on the dollar. 30%. That's not a negotiation. That's a fire sale. So what happened? How does Europe's largest premium motorcycle manufacturer go from record sales to insolvency in what feels like overnight? 3 reasons. And Rajiv Bajaj, the chief executive officer of Bajaj Auto, spelled them out publicly, calling them 3 forms of greed. Number 1, operational greed, meaning overproduction. After COVID, motorcycle demand spiked. KTM cranked up production to meet it. Then demand normalized, and KTM was sitting on a mountain of inventory it couldn't move. During the insolvency proceedings, the court-appointed administrator revealed that KTM had over 265,000 units sitting in warehouses and dealer lots globally, roughly a full year's worth of sales. By the end of 2024, after some movement, that figure stood at approximately 248,000 units. Number 2. Strategic greed, meaning the bicycle mistake. KTM expanded aggressively into the electric bicycle market, buying brands, building infrastructure, pouring money into a segment that boomed during COVID lockdowns and then fell off a cliff. The Felt Bicycles brand. E-bike divisions. All of it burned cash with almost no return. These assets were all divested in 2025 as part of the restructuring. Number 3. Governance greed, meaning management structure. Bajaj described KTM's overhead as perplexing. Of the roughly 4,000 employees at the time of the takeover, around 3,000 were office workers. Only about 1,000 were directly involved in making motorcycles. Bajaj's reaction, bluntly, there are too many managers at KTM who manage managers. A company that builds world-class bikes ran out of money, and when nobody else was willing to write a check big enough to fix it, Bajaj did, nearly $1 billion to keep KTM alive. But here's what nobody tells you about that rescue, what it cost, and what Bajaj immediately started dismantling to get their money back. Here's where it gets interesting, because the structure of this deal is messier than most headlines make it sound. Bajaj didn't just buy KTM. What they actually did was acquire 100% of a holding company called Pure Bajaj AG, which in turn controls 74.9% of Pure Mobility AG, which is KTM's publicly listed parent company. That parent company owns KTM, Husqvarna, GasGas, and WP Suspension, and at the time of the deal also held a stake in design studio Kiska, though that relationship has since been fully unwound. The remaining approximately 25% of Pure Mobility is still publicly traded on stock exchanges in Switzerland and Austria. The transaction completed November 18, 2025. Stefan Pure, the entrepreneur who built modern KTM into a global powerhouse, had already stepped down as CEO in early 2025 and ceded control entirely with the takeover. Pure Bajaj AG became Bajaj Auto International Holdings AG. Pure Mobility AG became Bajaj Mobility AG. The name change took effect January 13, 2026. KTM's headquarters stayed in Mattighofen, Austria. But who makes the big calls? That move to Pune. And the moves Bajaj has already made tell you exactly where this is headed. First, they immediately began divesting everything that is not a motorcycle. Felt Bicycles, sold. MV Agusta stake, gone. The Expo sports car division, sold off. The CF Moto distribution deal in Europe, terminated. Bajaj made it clear. KTM makes motorcycles, and that is all it is going to do. Second, they cut the workforce aggressively. As of the end of 2025, KTM had approximately 3,794 employees, down from 5,310 the previous year. An entire layer of middle management was removed. The goal is to cut overhead costs by over 50%. Third, they moved GasGas motorcycle production from its facility in Girona, Spain, to the main KTM plant in Mattighofen, consolidating all three brands under one roof. Around 20 of the roughly 300 Girona employees directly involved in motorcycle production were affected. No new hires were made in Austria to absorb the added production. That is the corporate structure. Now here's what it actually means for the specific bike you are standing in front of. If this is helping you make a smarter buying decision, drop a like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep digging into the stuff that actually matters. Are you considering a KTM right now, or has this changed your mind? Drop it in the comments. On pricing, the short-term situation actually favors buyers. Bajaj burned through 2025 trying to reduce KTM's massive inventory surplus. They brought it down from approximately 248,000 units to about 147,000. To do that, KTM was offering discounts of 1,000 euros to 4,000 euros on 2024 models. In the US, if you're shopping now or in the next few months, you may find some real deals on carryover inventory. Dealers want these bikes moved. Long-term, pricing depends on where production goes. Bajaj has strongly hinted at moving more manufacturing to India, specifically smaller displacement models. If that happens, cost savings could eventually translate to lower manufacturer-suggested retail prices on entry-level bikes. But don't hold your breath on your 1290 Super Duke getting cheaper. High-end Austrian manufacturing stays Austrian for now. On product delays, if you were waiting on the 990 RCR or any of the new 990 cubic centimeters or 1,390 cubic centimeters platform bikes that were supposed to launch in 2025, those got pushed. The financial crisis froze production and supply chains for months. Production on the 990 RCR resumed in October 2025, with the 990 Duke R following in November 2025. These bikes are now arriving as 2026 model year bikes, and the US market may feel that lag even more than Europe. On quality, this is the question everyone is really asking, and the honest answer is, we don't fully know yet. Bajaj's cost cutting has targeted research and development directly. Overhead costs across admin, marketing, and research and development are being cut by over 50%. Less research and development spending does not mean worse bikes today, but it could mean less innovation 5 years from now. What we do know is that Bajaj has committed to keeping production in Austria for high-end models, and KTM Chief Executive Officer Gottfried Neumeister, contracted through 2028, has stated that engineering and development remain based in Mattighofen, even as budgets face significant cuts. Whether that promise holds as cost pressure mounts is the real variable. On racing, KTM's entire brand DNA is motorsport. Ready to race isn't a slogan, it's been a literal engineering philosophy that trickles down from the factory race team to the street bikes. KTM did renew their Enduro partnership with DHL Express through 2028, which is a positive signal. But the broader factory racing budget is under scrutiny. A word on CF Moto. Their European distribution deal was terminated as part of the restructuring. Their separate manufacturing joint venture with KTM in China, which produces certain twin-cylinder models, is a distinct arrangement, and its future remains an open question. On Husqvarna and GasGas, here's something a lot of riders miss. This deal doesn't just affect KTM. Husqvarna and GasGas are in the same boat, under the same holding company, with the same ownership. If you're cross-shopping brands, understand that all three sit inside Bajaj Mobility AG now. On WP Suspension, one genuinely interesting development, WP Suspension has entered the braking business. They have developed an in-house 4-piston radial front caliper, a radial master cylinder, and braided hose system, all designed for sub-500cc models. The first WP brake system is already on the 2026 KTM 390 Duke. That's a positive for buyers of entry-level KTMs. More in-house components means more control over cost and quality in that segment. Which brings us to the part most people in this conversation are still getting wrong. Zoom out for a second, because what's happening with KTM isn't happening in a vacuum. Bajaj now sits alongside a growing list of manufacturers that have moved into ownership, not just manufacturing contracts, with legacy Western brands. Triumph builds the vast majority of its bikes in Thailand. Ducati and BMW both manufacture select models in lower-cost regions. Hero partnered with Harley-Davidson. The era where a European or American badge automatically meant a European or American factory is already over. KTM is just the latest and most dramatic example. Rajiv Bajaj said something that should probably be printed and hung in every motorcycle dealership in America. European manufacturing is dead. He didn't mean every factory closes. He meant the economic model that assumed premium price required domestic production is no longer the default. Consumers in developed markets will keep paying premium prices, but the bikes will increasingly be built wherever the economics make sense. For American riders, that means the conversation you're having in the dealership about where is this built is going to get more complicated every year. The relevant question is shifting from where it's built to who designed it, who engineered it, and who controls the quality standards, regardless of geography. And on that front, Bajaj's track record with KTM's Indian production is actually solid. The bikes built in Pune have not been meaningfully inferior to the Austrian-built counterparts. The 390 Duke, built in India, is the same 390 Duke sold everywhere in the world. That's over 13 years of manufacturing evidence and more than 18 years of the overall partnership that the arrangement worked. What it might change is the ambition ceiling. The big question for KTM enthusiasts is not whether the 390 Duke gets worse. It is whether the next generation of genuinely exciting, boundary-pushing KTM motorcycles, the ones that come from engineers with budget and freedom, still gets green-lit in a corporate structure that is now primarily focused on getting back to profitability. That is the real watch this space question for the next 3 to 5 years. Here's the truth this story keeps coming back to. KTM was never purely European. It was always partly Indian. Bajaj built the bikes that made KTM accessible to the world, funded the manufacturing that made KTM scalable, and then rescued the company when management ran it into the ground. The takeover is not a fall from grace. It is the logical end of a partnership that was always unequal. Most riders will walk into a KTM dealership this year and see the orange badge and think, Austrian, race-bred, premium. They are not wrong, but they are not getting the whole picture either. You now know who actually owns that badge. You know what they cut, what they kept, and what is still uncertain. That is not trivia. That is a buying decision. Make sure you know which KTM you are actually getting before you sign. If this kind of deep dive is useful to you, subscribe, because this is exactly what we do here.